Yo, what's good everyone? Today I'm going to be breaking down some of my favorite tournament or GPP plays for this Week 16 NFL Draftkings main slate, and like I always do here in these videos, I'm going to kick it off with a couple of my favorite game stacks, and then I'll highlight some of my favorite individual plays and stacks. With that being said, let's dive right into this. And we're going to kick things off here with a couple of game stacks that I like here for this week, and then the first being that game between the Vikings and Lions, and I like stacking up the Vikings side here with Mullins, Jefferson, and Hawkinson, and then running it back with St. Brown. Definitely some shootout potential in this game here with an implied total of 47 points. That's the second most on the main slate, and these two teams have actually gone into some shootouts here over their last 6 games. You can see on the graphic there they've scored above 50 points in 5 of their last 6 games, and part of the reason I like stacking up the Vikings side here is because this Lions secondary has really struggled as of late. Since week 9, they've allowed the most PPR points per target to wide receivers, and then obviously with Hawkinson there you have the revenge narrative, and then the reason I like running it back with St. Brown, even though there are a number of routes that we could go, whether it be David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, or one of those cheaper wide receivers, I chose to spend up here for St. Brown because he's been awesome versus 2 high safety defenses, and the Vikings just so happen to run a 2 high safety defense 71% of the time. You can see his numbers on the graphic there. Versus 2 high, he's seen a 31% target share, 41% air yard share, and a 37% first read share. And then another game stack that I like targeting here this week is that game between the Bucks and Jags. Now for starters, I like this game a lot more if Trevor Lawrence does play. As I record here on Saturday morning, it sounds like he's questionable. If he clears the concussion protocol and travels today, he will be starting on Sunday. Unfortunately, I just don't have that news yet, so I'm going to run up this stack here right now with Baker Mayfield, Rachaad White, Mike Evans, and then run it back with Ingram. If Lawrence does end up playing, though, I have no problem stacking up that side of this game. We have an implied total here of 42.5 points. That's the 5th most on the main slate, and part of the reason I do like stacking up the Bucks here is because this Jags secondary has not been good as of late. Since week 10, they've allowed the 2nd most yards per attempt, 2nd most passing touchdowns, and 2nd best passer rating to quarterbacks. And running it back, I could go with a wide receiver on the Jags side of things, but I prefer Evan Ingram here because the Bucks defense has allowed close to 15 DraftKings points per game to tight ends this year. That's the 5th most in the NFL. Now folks, before we dive into some of my favorite individual plays and stacks here, if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. We're trying to get GriffDogg Sports here to 4,000 subs, and the faster we can build this brand here, the more content we're going to be able to get out to you guys. Alright, now diving into some of these individual plays and stacks here, we're going to kick it off with the quarterbacks, and I almost highlighted Joe Flacco again. I do like him this week on the road against Houston, playing indoors. Easy to stack him up with Amari Cooper or David Njoku, who I'm going to highlight at the end of this video. But I decided to go a little off the rail here with my quarterback this week. I'm trying to take down the Millie Maker, and that's with Taylor Heineke here of the Atlanta Falcons. And I get it, it's a gross pick, but hear me out. He's super cheap at $4,800 in a good matchup at home against the Indianapolis Colts, where we would need 19.2 DraftKings points for him to hit 4x value. That's not a crazy number by any means, and if I'm talking the Millie Maker, I'm shooting for 225 DraftKings points, so we need closer to 21 DraftKings points out of him. Again, certainly very doable. Now, he's only played 1 full game this year, and in that game, he had 38 pass attempts, 268 passing yards, and did throw for 1 touchdown. But what I really like about playing this guy is he's not afraid to run the ball. They're not designed scrambles by any means or designed running plays. They are truly just panic scrambles, but he's not afraid to put his shoulder down and run through people. So maybe he can find the end zone running the ball. This is really a kid who has nothing to lose here and everything to gain to close out the last 3 games of the regular season. So like I said, it's an off-the-rail play, but he will be in one of my Millie Maker tournaments. Now, moving on to the running backs here, and I do want to mention that I highlighted 4 running backs in my cash plays video yesterday. If you haven't watched that yet, make sure you go check it out because those 4 running backs and really all of those plays will be in my tournament pool as well. But another running back that I like here on the tournament side of things this week is Derrick Henry of the Tennessee Titans. He's priced at $6,800 in a good matchup at home against the Seahawks, where we would need 27.2 DraftKings points for him to hit 4x value. Now, he was truly brutal last week, maybe the worst game of his NFL NFL career, going for just 9 rushing yards on 16 attempts, but in his 3 games prior to that, he was playing some good ball, averaging close to 20 touches per game, 82.5 yards per game, and 2 touchdowns per game as well, and I like the bounce back spot at home for him here against Seattle, a team that ranks 21st overall in defensive rush DVOA, and a team that's allowed 27.3 DraftKings points per game to running backs this year. That's the 5th most in the NFL. And then another tournament running back that I like here this week is Aaron Jones of the Green Bay Packers, priced at $6,400 in a great matchup against the Carolina Panthers, where we would need 25.6 DraftKings points for him to hit 4x value. Now, he just returned from IR last week. He's kind of been banged up all season long, but I like that he saw 17 touches last week, even though it only totaled 69 yards. This is a much better matchup here against this Carolina defense, who ranked 31st overall in defensive rush DVOA, while having allowed 27.6 DraftKings points per game to the opposing position this year. That's the 3rd most in the NFL. Now, moving on to the wide receivers here, and there are definitely some elite options on this slate, but one guy who's surprisingly going overlooked is Tyreek Hill, the Miami Dolphins. As I record here on Saturday, he's projecting around 7% ownership, and look, I get it, he's super expensive here at $9,600, coming off of that ankle injury in a tough matchup against this Cowboys defense, where we would need 38.4 DraftKings points for him to hit 4x value, but anytime I can get Tyreek at sub 10% ownership in my tournament lineup, I will take advantage of that. We know that volume's not going to be an issue with this guy, someone who's seen a 32% target share, 42% air yard share, and a 34% red zone share this season, leading all wide receivers across the NFL with 12 touchdowns, and even though this Cowboys defense is talented, I actually don't mind the matchup for Tyreek, because the Cowboys love to run man coverage, actually at the 3rd highest rate, 36% of the time, and I don't know about you, but anytime I can get Tyreek Hill lined up one-on-one, I want to take advantage of that. It seems like it's a matchup he's going to win more times than not. Now, I'm going to go a little off the rail here again with this next play in Garrett Wilson of the New York Jets, priced at $5,800 this weekend, and it's not due to him. He is certainly a talented wide receiver. It just so happens to be the situation he's in playing in New York. He's got Trevor Siemian at the quarterback position this week, another quarterback that he's played roulette with so far this season, but outside of him playing quarterback roulette this year, the numbers aren't bad, and I love this matchup against Washington. We need 23.2 DraftKings points now for him to hit 4x value this weekend, but even though he's played with multiple quarterbacks this year, he's maintained a 31% target share and a 42% air yard share, and like I said, I love this matchup against Washington, who ranked dead last in the NFL in defensive pass DVOA, while having allowed 44.6 DraftKings points per game to the wide receiver position. That's the 2nd most in the NFL. And then the last wide receiver that I want to highlight here is Tyler Lockett of the Seattle Seahawks, priced at $5,600 in a good matchup on the road against the Titans this week, where we would need 22.4 DraftKings points for him to hit 4x value. Now, part of the reason I like this matchup here is because this Titans secondary is not very good, ranking 27th overall in defensive pass DVOA, while allowing 41.6 DraftKings points per game to the wide receiver position. That's the 6th most in the NFL, but I like Lockett in particular over Metcalf and Jackson Smith and Jigba, because the Titans defense run a too high safety 54% of the time, and versus too high safeties, Lockett leads this Seattle team with a 21% target share, 45% air yard share, and a 26% first read share. Now, dipping into the tight ends here, again, highlighted a few in my cash plays video yesterday, someone like Trey McBride, and then some cheaper options like Tucker Kraft, Tyler Conklin, as well as Chig Okonkwo. But when it comes to tournaments this week, and I kind of name dropped him earlier, David Njoku, if you want to stack him up with Joe Flacco or play him individually, I do like him in this spot on the road against Houston this week, priced at $5,300, where we would need 21.2 DraftKings points for him to hit 4x value. Now, his first game with Flacco wasn't great, but his last 2 games have been absolutely spectacular. He's seen a 21% target share, 19% first read share with Flacco, finishing with 3.7, 27.1, and 29.4 Draftkings points. And I do love this matchup against Houston, a team that has not been very good against tight ends this year, with their defense having allowed 15.4 Draftkings points per game to the tight end position, the fourth most in the NFL. And then a slightly cheaper tight end that I like here this week in tournaments is Cole Kmet of the Chicago Bears, priced at $4,400 in a matchup at home against the Cardinals, where we would need 17.6 Draftkings points for him to hit 4x value. Now, this Cardinals defense runs a too-high safety 71% of the time, and versus too-high safety defenses this year, Kmet's seen a 19% target share and a 20% first read share. Really like those numbers there. And this Cardinals defense has also faced the second fewest tight end targets this season, but have allowed the 10th most receiving yards per reception. So again, certainly don't mind this matchup. And then when it comes to defenses here this week, I did highlight 3 in my cash plays video yesterday: the New York Jets, the Tennessee Titans, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But one other defense that will be in play here on the tournament side of things for me this week is the Cleveland Browns, priced at $3,400, heading on the road here to play the Texans, where we would need 13.6 Draftkings points for them to hit 4x value. Now, the Texans are not going to be starting CJ Stroud once again this week. Tank Dell is on the IR for the rest of the season, and even though Nico Collins is expected back here this week, he's still battling a calf injury. So I like this matchup in general, considering the Texans are missing some of their top playmakers, but especially considering they're missing CJ Stroud and going to be rolling out Case Keenum at the starting quarterback position, who didn't look great against the Titans last week, had an interception, a fumble, and took 3 sacks. Plus, this Browns defense is arguably the best in the NFL, ranking first overall in defensive pass DVOA and second overall in defensive rush DVOA. Alright everyone, that is going to wrap up this video here for today. As always, thank y'all for taking the time out of your day to watch the content here on this channel. If you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. Let's have ourselves a great weekend here, folks. Let's win some money on this Week 16 main slate. And in the meantime, I'm out of here.